Here we go.
And I'm going to make sure we're on live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Witch Bitch, where we talk the real tea. And today we have Michelle Fuller on our show again.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Mwah!
I'm so looking forward to this conversation because every single time we talk with you, I walk away just having my cup so much more like filled up and you know with so many little lessons and little like nuggets of you know I don't know like
Wisdom
spiritual wisdom.
and gold nuggets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just always feel so much better. I remember I think the first time we talked I was
Mm-hmm.
actually really sick, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave our conversation at the end like and just go back to sleep.
Right.
And I remember I still felt so much better though,
I
and
remember
every
too.
single time there was other times when um we were talking when I was up in Byron and I was really stressed out or
Mm-hmm.
just really ungrounded because I wasn't used to that life yet. And I would walk away from our conversation feeling a million times better, knowing what I was going to do in my day, like just so settled within myself because you just have so much wisdom. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
That's so sweet. Thank you for sharing that with me because I mean, I don't know, so it's nice. It's nice to hear. I think also that there are a lot of different collectives here, and we all overlap. We all dance with each other. We're all equally purposed, but when we are from sort of the same collective, however we want to envision that, we could use
mm,
like so many different verbiages depending on the lens, and we dance together, we definitely feel like a healing happening,
Yeah.
and I love to speak with you as well. And Juliet, everything you post on Witch Bitch is like mind blowing,
Isn't
mind
it?
blowing. Yes, yes,
oh,
Yeah, she's so expressive
yeah.
and so beautiful with her shares and
Hmm.
vulnerable with her shares in such a and like the energy around your shares, Juliet. So it's pure.
Oh, very, very,
Yeah.
and also, um, so like every single post I've ever read of yours, there's no age gap,
Mm.
which speaks to you, like your emotional and spiritual maturity, or maybe it speaks to me. And but I mean, we have like a 25-year age difference, and everything you share, it's just so full of wisdom and maturity, and it always speaks to me and is helpful to me as well. So
Yeah, it's relatable, isn't it?
yeah,
It's relatable
totally.
in a really pure kind of spiritual essence.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful. I
yeah,
love them too.
that means a lot because all it is me trying to understand
Mm.
what I'm going through in that
yeah.
moment. And a lot of the time, like new layers of the same stuff comes up. So I'm a little bit nervous that when I make a post that I'm repeating myself somehow
No.
because what I'm going through is the
Nope.
same as it's just like another layer.
But
Yeah,
But
that's what's beautiful about it though,
yeah, yeah,
because it
yeah.
shows that incrementally we can move through this life. It doesn't have to be leaps and bounds, it can
mm,
be in layers
yeah,
because
Yeah,
life is a spiral, isn't it? We're
yeah.
always coming back to the same themes and the
yeah,
same lessons and learning deeper.
yeah.
That's
I
right.
mean, exactly. And I will say one huge thing that I learnt by taking that huge leap to Byron was that like if you want an easy life,
Stay home.
take the layer option. I mean, you don't always want an easy life, so it's always good to take the leap.
You're so
But
funny.
Right,
when you want the easy choice, take the
right.
layers. Don't jump all the way. You don't always have to jump all the way. But sometimes it's good to jump all the way. But
Yeah,
like, yeah, I don't know. It's
absolutely.
it's it's definitely got its like I don't know. I think the way that I viewed life before I moved out was like so petrified of jumping, and then it
Hmm.
just got to a point where it was like I just have to do it. And so I
Hmm.
did it, and
Yep.
it was amazing, But I learned that there's a certain time for those things and I don't have to do it all the time, because once
Right.
I did it once,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, let's jump again. Let's jump again further, deeper, deeper, deeper. Because it was like the first jump, look where it landed me. Let's like keep going. And it
Yeah.
was really stressful. It was fun, but it was just like, oh my God, what is going on around me?
Will you do it
Yeah.
again though? Will you do that big leapy jump again in your
Oh,
life?
all the time, yeah. But if there's any time to jump, it is now. When I'm
Yes, 100%.
young, when I have a family that will
Yep.
hold me for my take
Yeah.
me back if I make any mistakes.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
there's always like this is the time right now where I take the risks.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the
Right.
risks. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, you may find that your whole life is full of risk taking because
Yeah. Of
it
course.
might be part of who you be, you know?
Mm,
And
yeah.
I'm totally projecting right now because that's really been my life. Like I know that a lot of decisions that I've made, action pieces that I put into play, um, someone else looking in, they're what the. But for me, it has made total sense. And so it's like a training and intuition as well, like knowing what we are meant to do and when,
Mm.
and
Oh yeah.
being so strong in that knowing that it doesn't matter how crazy it looks to anybody else. It is purpose for us, and we know what we're doing, and we believe in ourselves. We
Yeah.
believe in
Yeah.
the purpose of it.
Gosh, that's the
Wow.
most important part of it is
Yeah.
the belief in self, like
Yeah.
knowing that, okay, it might look crazy to the outside world, but to me, it's perfect.
And
Yep.
I will say that you can never do anything for another person
Yep.
because like you're not living your own life. I learnt that by leaving because it was the one
Mm,
decision that I knew I wanted to do, that all of me wanted to do, but didn't sit it didn't suit all of my outer world. Like
Mm.
mhm.
it was just like I know this is the right step even though it doesn't seem like it
Mhm.
sometimes. There's those obstacles, that there's those doubts that project out into
Mm.
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
And but I'm like, no, this is the right step. And I did it. And when I told people um what I was doing, and like this was when I first arrived, and I
Mhm.
was like telling people, yeah, I lived in Sydney and I just moved out into a tent
Imagine.
in the jungle. And I was working as a bartender as well, so like I would have
Mhm.
conversations with the customers and stuff,
I
and I
can
would tell
imagine they'd
them.
Right.
be like, what are
And
you
I
I
know,
got
doing?
right?
two I got two responses. It was like, oh, okay. And like, would like then like, go off and live their life. Like,
Yeah.
cool that you did that.
You strange person.
Or the other response was like complete um
Respect.
Respect.
understanding of me and
Yeah.
being like, oh my God, that's so cool. Give me a high five. Like, I had this guy that
Yeah.
offered to buy me a drink, and I was like, thank you, but I can't. It's illegal
Right.
in Australia to do that, so I can't, but thank you. And
Right.
that's like the two responses. I remember my manager at work, she didn't know that I actually lived in a tent until I just was about to leave, and it came up in
Okay.
conversation. And she was like, oh my God, you live in a tent? How long has this been going on? And I'm like,
The whole
the
time.
whole time.
Yeah. Right. Right.
She
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. And like complete disgust washed over her face.
Right. Right. And
And
that's
it
the
was just,
mirror. That's the
yes,
mirror,
it
right?
was it was a
Yeah.
complete mirror. And
Yeah.
it showed me like how much I'd grown, because I was
Mhm.
watching her and I felt sorry for her. I was
Yeah.
like laughing at her. I was laughing at her, but I mean, it was
Not in a
like
mean
not in
way.
a mean way. We were
No.
laughing together, and she was doing her
Right.
own laughing at me, and I was
Yep.
laughing at her. And I don't know,
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
like just seeing her response. It was just like she doesn't know what's out there, man.
Right.
It's you're missing out. Go
Yeah.
live in a tent, dude. It's crazy.
Well, and you're breaking paradigms, right? And so
Yeah.
then when you share how you're breaking paradigms with others, you're
Mm.
going to be reflecting to them something that either aligns with their consciousness or doesn't. And
Mm,
either way, it's useful. And then it's useful for you, exactly what you're saying, because then it shines a light back on you and where you're at and who you
yeah,
be. So it's like
yeah,
this gorgeous interplay, right?
so true. I There are so many examples of that in life. I remember just like when you change paradigms, when you choose a frequency of 5D that isn't 3D, that isn't,
Yep.
you know, like, because for me, I'm recently discovering my place in spirituality at this stage in my life because it's
Mm-hmm.
always ever changing. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
like recentering myself with my beliefs and like reconfirming my beliefs and stuff. And I realized that for me, I don't fit into um, I love science and I love the physical evidence of things,
Mm.
and then I also love the magical, whimsical, like impossible miracles that take place every single day
Yeah.
in this life. Like how we can take control of our
Yeah.
body, of our health, of our wellness, and of ancient mysteries. I mean, we have an ancient mysteries show like
Mm.
episode. So, I have this mix of two, like liking these two things, and a lot
Yeah.
of the time it's hard to fit them together because, I mean, one thing cannot be explained usually with the words and the resources that we have in the physical realm.
Yeah, it's like they're two places,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in this place at the moment where you see the two places, you love the two
yeah.
places, and you're kind of trying to
Jumping, yeah, I'm
build a
building a bridge.
bridge. Yeah.
Yes. Well, my point in this paradigm thing was because I just finished work. This was not last night, the night before. I just finished work and I work at another bar in Sydney at the moment.
Okay.
And I was sitting behind the bar and eating my free meal because I get a free meal. And I was eating my free meal, like just ready to go home, and these two people come sit by the bar, and my co-worker is like talking with them, and then all of a sudden they're talking about space, and I'm like, oh, this is an interesting conversation. And he's like, oh my god, yeah, they work at the space station. And I was like, oh my god, what? I wanted to be in, like, because I wanted to be an astrophysicist when I was growing up.
Okay.
And I was like very interested in some questions to ask them because I don't really know that much about space, and we all know some of the weird stuff that goes on. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. And so I was like, oh,
Space is just weird.
this is my chance to ask some questions. And so I brought up a question around the radiation and the electromagnetic field around
Okay.
Earth, because a huge argument that people say when it comes to conspiracies about space is you can't go, like, it's physically impossible for you to be able to like sustain in the radiation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked them and I introduced my question like that, like a huge reason for all the conspiracy theories is this. And I wasn't asking out of believing anything. I was
Yeah,
asking
pure curiosity.
because I didn't believe
Right.
anything,
Yeah.
and I wanted to like have some information from people that would know. And my coworker interrupted me mid question and was like, "No, Juliet, why are you asking this?" And like completely stamping down, being that
Wow.
mirror of
Interesting.
just closing off any sort of um
Like as soon as you say
curiosity.
conspiracy theory,
It was just like Juliet
yeah, it's like you're being a conspiracy
and
theorist.
complete judgment and
Mm.
belittling, right? And I had to
Yeah.
like say to him, like, no, I'm not asking like that. Just give me a chance. Like, it's not like that. I'm
Mm.
just genuinely curious. And
And
so I
by the way, you're going to be okay, friend. Take a
Yes.
nice deep breath and you'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so I finished asking my question, and luckily the people who actually work at the space station, they were very open and they were like actually wanting to answer my question and could see why I was asking, because wouldn't it be better for people like conspiracy theorists, whatever you want to call people who,
Curious
yeah,
people.
curious people,
Right.
um, like the reason why we have so much misinformation out there, my belief is that because there's no merging of those worlds, it's so separate. And the second that we
Right.
try and ask and build that bridge over to like what I did, it gets shut down so quickly. Luckily, I was like, dude, no, I want to ask my question.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't happen all the time. It's just like, oh, because his reaction was so strong that it actually, like, I could feel when
Mm-hmm.
I was walking away, it stuck with me. It, like,
Mm-hmm.
tightened my insides a little bit. That's the
Yeah.
only way I can explain it.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel nice. And I can understand how so many people would like let that take control over the
Let
curiosity.
them push them down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens so much. And it happens when you try and build a bridge, do something new, and don't fit into that
It happened
mold.
to me too during COVID when I was watching a lot of Joe Dispenza's videos.
He's really good at judging those.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
um, somebody was making an argument about staying safe,
Okay.
and
I don't.
I've actually somebody who I used to work with who became a friend. We became friends,
Mm-hmm.
and they were in their fear paradigm about COVID and about hospitals and about protocols and all of that stuff and the right way to do something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you stray from the lines, you're going to make me sick and you're going to make everybody else sick and you're going to make yourself sick and you're being irresponsible and all of that
Right.
stuff. And I put to them in the discussion, well, what about this? And it was the Joe Dispenza video that I'd watched about how we can control
Our health, basically.
our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We're the captain of our own ship,
Right.
and that
Yep.
the way we see the world can contribute to illness or to wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And the future, because you think about Nikola Tesla and people like that who talk about what the future is going to look like, Einstein, all of these visionaries from the past,
Mm-hmm.
and how they would talk about the future,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how the people of their time would be calling them crazy
Right.
because they were like, that will never happen. I don't see that. That's crazy, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So when Joe Dispenza was talking about how we can control our physical bodies through our
Mm-hmm.
mind and how that's going to look in medicine in the coming years,
Mm-hmm.
and I put this argument to my friend, of course, of course, he called me crazy. And we had a few of these conversations over time, over that 2020 period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there were lots of philosophical openings. Like my brain was like trying to expand his.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, not even just have those conversations. Like I wasn't actively trying to open his mind. I was just having conversations with him,
Right.
and the result of that could have been that his mind was opened.
Mm-hmm.
But before that could even be a possibility, he defriended me.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, on
Wow.
Facebook. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that story, I know that story isn't the only story, and it's definitely not the only story for me, and it's not the only story for people that I know.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
what you're talking about, Juliet, is um, gives me so much joy because your generation is like you didn't allow so many people would allow that judgment to shut them down, and you didn't, because she rang me and said, Mum, this happened, and this is how I felt about it, this is how it was making me feel. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's completely understandable to feel that way,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
to feel it and continue on
Mm-hmm.
and to keep saying, dude, just wait a minute, give me a second and you'll see the question come out. it's not what you think it is.
Right.
So many people they wouldn't have the wherewithal to do that, particularly young people, I
100%.
think.
Oh, 100%. Oh,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, I think when I was your age, I know for sure that I would have really struggled in that space. Um,
Mm,
it, 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 it's an interesting thing because on one hand, those spaces hook into our shame, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, the shame itself is the feeling, the somatic experience that is trying to tell us something isn't right here,
Yeah.
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so then we get to choose, like, okay, am I going to reclaim that I'm the main character in my story and I get to say whatever the hell I want as long as it's from a space of do no harm, right? That's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, do no harm, and then I get to speak whatever I want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, and of course, even that's sort of um, an interesting concept because something that you might speak that for you is from a space of do no harm, someone else, if it's not what they want to
Mm,
hear, if it hooks into their fear, they may perceive it as something that's harmful. So this is why we have to know for ourselves, what is my intention? What is my objective? You know?
Yeah.
and that's why this cancel culture that we have going on social media, because social media, I see it as this playing field where opinion is
Yeah.
where
Weapons.
yeah, opinion is like it's a testing ground for people to put it out there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And when and that's how fights happen, and
Hmm.
that's how these social media blow ups happen, and then this is how cancel culture has emerged, because all you got to do is just click off that, and they're gone.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, that's why this what you're talking about, the cancel culture and all of that, is so limiting, because it means that the second you feel what's the word, offended by
Hmm.
something, which people hide behind that word. It's like a shield. You're offending me. You need to
Right.
stop speaking now because you're offending me. You
Right.
know, it's a controlling mechanism, and it's something that people hide behind. It's like my shield of offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
and so that whole kind of culture that we've got going on online, and
Hmm.
it starts there, but it spills over into real life,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because when you're out there in the 3D world, because I work in a very 3D place where
Right.
I'm surrounded by a lot of people who really don't think the same way that I do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
um, that you try and have a little bit of a conversation about cancel culture or racism or being offended by things, or LGBTQ, all of that trigger happy stuff
Hmm.
that gets people on their high horse pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Then you start to see, like, some people, it's just so eye-opening, because some people naturally just question things,
Yeah.
Right.
like in this 3D playground that I'm in.
Yeah.
And they don't have the same awareness, say, as some people that I know, or
Hmm.
even myself, and that's not judging, that's
Hmm.
just a
Hmm.
fact.
Yep.
And then you see the conversation play out between the person who's asking and being curious, which is like what you were doing, Juliet.
Mm.
Hmm.
And then you see the reaction to that, and the way some of these other people who are offended and are triggered by the questions, how they
Right.
react to that, and then
Hmm.
how that all plays out, that dynamic.
Hmm.
And it's um, like, people say to me, "Oh, but that's just online. That's just social media." And I'm like thinking, actually, I see it happening on social media in front
Mm-hmm.
of me, and then I see it also in the real world.
Yeah.
Right.
It
Yeah.
Right.
might not look exactly the same way, and it's a different paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
online to real life, but it is definitely spilling over.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
I wonder, and I think this like ties in so well with the title because
Mm,
when you take away the shield of offense, as mom
yeah,
called it, and
Mm-hmm.
you take away the
the
blockages
excuses.
and the closed
Yeah.
mindedness to questions, to curiosity, you are then allowing prosperity of human connection. You know, you might make like I remember. Okay, actually, a cool example of this because I was closed minded the other way around. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I
Ah,
think I was very when I first woke up, I was very angry. I was processing what I'm learning. You know, what I'm learning about the
Right.
world. And I also felt very alone because I didn't know anyone my age who was anywhere near like spiritually awakened except for one friend. And
Mm-hmm.
then we kind I clung on to her a little bit. She clung on to me a little bit, but then she got pulled into the matrix and she
Okay.
was no longer like I mean she's still spiritual but definitely
yeah. It
more
was like
lost.
they were on this fork in the road, the two of them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, we
she
just
kind
went our
of
separate
got
ways.
scared by all of this
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
she
on some level in her psyche,
I
yeah.
saw that
and so she,
happen a lot with my son and
Yeah.
his friends as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
And
I
it
think
was really challenging. It's I
mhm,
know, Claude, like as moms, even like watching you guys go through that because we've been through it too. We know what it's like, but at that age, I feel like it's even more challenging because it's this age where you're
yes,
really trying to figure out like your sense of self and all of these things. So yeah.
definitely. Definitely. I think it just made me very upset because I saw how people don't want to educate themselves, like purposefully want to shut their
mm,
eyes to
Hmm.
what's going on because if they face it, then they also have to face what comes with choosing to act in sovereignty, which is a lot of, you know,
it's a lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Hello,
And
that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's me. That's me. I'm that person who we were just talking before off camera,
Hmm.
where I was saying when I get like when the shadow goes away and when I see the stuff,
Yep.
I'm like, holy shit.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then I feel sometimes that I want to run away
yeah,
Right.
and I want to go back to not seeing things.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think to get to my point, I think so. I was very closed off and I was very angry to more of the 3D side of relationships, like more of like, oh, I was a lot less open to people when they told me their spiritual beliefs
Mm.
or lack thereof. I would be
Hmm.
like, oh, that's
I
not,
can't be friends with
can't,
you.
I don't really want to be friends with you. But
Hmm.
then when and then I just didn't have like any friends
Hmm.
because no one, no one that I met was awakened at that point, and it probably because
Hmm.
I was closed off to it, like closed off to like all these potential friendships kept coming, but it was like
It
oh,
was like the
but
universe was teaching you.
and
Yeah. I feel like
and
that's a rite of passage. Like I
yeah,
went through something similar myself where
yeah,
I was like always looking, like I'd say little
Mm.
things, try to drop little hints, like, you know, just trying to sort of feel things out. And it was coming from a lot of work that I had to do within myself. And so
yeah,
therefore I sort of blocked myself to potentialities that would be really
Yeah.
yeah,
meaningful in whatever way they were meaningful, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lack of trust in self too, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
you think, well, I can't be friends with that person because I'm not going to be able to handle it when they're
Right.
saying or doing things that go against my beliefs.
mm,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a betrayal of yourself too,
Yeah.
because like I mean, it's everyone is within, like I'm within every other person, no matter where
Yes.
they stand.
That's right. Yeah.
And it really showed me what I learned, and I didn't realize it at the time because usually I'm pretty self-aware to the point of like actual like overthinking, because I'm so self-aware that I'm like, oh Juliet, you're doing that, and it's like, oh but I want to do that though, I don't want to.
Are you arguing with
Yeah, and
yourself?
then it just
Right.
like leads into this tornado in my mind because of how self-aware I was. Oh,
Yeah.
I am sorry. And but around this, but like around closing off to other people, I didn't see that I was doing it
Right.
um until, well, I did see that I was doing it, but I didn't see that there was a problem in doing it,
Mm-hmm.
or that it was actually self-harming me until I moved out, and suddenly I'm living with all these people in this communal sense, this communal living sense, and you
Mm-hmm.
have people of spiritual means everywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
in
All different.
so many
Yeah.
different ways
Mm-hmm.
that it's even more different than than what I was facing before. Like
Yeah.
because now I'm getting, I have people that believe in nothing at all, and
Mm-hmm.
then I have people that believe in like things that I wouldn't even like say go as far as to say I believe in, at least at this stage in my life. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? But like I was hearing other people and I'm like, oh my god. I mean, I'm this is really intense. And then other times I like, it was just so many different people, and
Right.
I became friends with all of them, and I loved all of the human connection. And
Yeah.
then I came back to Sydney with those friendships, and that building those relationships and having that skill to now
Yeah.
find common ground with other people. It
Yeah.
created so much prosperity in my life, honestly, once I opened myself to it, because I'm at this new job, and I won't lie, at every single job that I've had up until this point, I can never say that I've found real friends before. I've
Mm-hmm.
never found um, deep connection with anyone, and I owe this job, I owe my friendships that I'm making
Mm-hmm.
because of just opening to up to like all kinds of different people, no
Yeah.
matter what they believe in, because I can see that all these people are really good people, and they have
Yeah.
beautiful intentions, and they have so much love. They just project it in a different way to me,
Right.
and that's okay. They're on their journey, and if I want to drop little seeds of whatever things I want, I can,
Mm-hmm.
but also I
Like
don't have
radiation
to.
in space.
But also I don't have to. Like, it's not my responsibility. I think so many people, like, let me know if you guys agree, but so many spiritual people feel responsible, and I say this because I know it, and I did it, and I saw it, other people do it, but
Mm-hmm.
there's this responsibility to drop
Yeah.
seeds with other people,
Yeah.
but you don't actually have to. The way
No.
that you
No.
hold yourself and talk, it's
Mm-hmm.
enough.
All of that, like this whole piece that we're talking about right now, like all of that, it's all part of like ego, right? Like spiritual
Yeah.
Yeah,
ego.
yeah.
And it all, in a way, this is how I see it, okay? It's sort of like a process of going through the mirror, like moving through that space of where we need everyone to like reflect us back to us on some level.
Hmm.
And so we like, it's just like this rite of passage. Like we have to go through the
Yes, so
mirror,
true.
right? And you might think, because oh, I'm awake. I'm
Yeah.
awake, right? And so in the meantime, it's like, are you really? Because you still need everyone to reflect you back to you, right? So like you were saying before, it's layers. It's this gorgeous onion.
Hmm.
But ultimately what comes to mind also is like, the idea of like the bodhisattva, where, the bodhisattva can choose to go to the mountaintop and meditate forever, but chooses to stay in the world. And that's where we can bring in um, our true divinity, our spiritual gifts and love at, etc.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, there are times where boundaries are needed because,
Yeah.
sometimes certain things roll out in certain ways that are really not
Mm.
beneficial. But there's prosperity in that also, because even those situations are trying to show us something, like trying to show us through the magic that is this realm, because this whole realm is magic.
Yeah.
Um, something about our path, you know,
Yeah.
maybe ways we're abandoning ourselves, but we were talking ourselves into doing a thing anyway because whatever belief is there, you know, whatever fear is there, you know. And so
Yeah.
then like the universe has to come and kind of like whack you, you know. And
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
be experienced as a painful event even, but it's working for you. And that's a part of prosperity, is like trusting that like this is my game and I get to play it, and that there's magic all around me supporting me all the time. And so always like
Mhm.
notice, like that's probably the biggest piece of what prosperity is for me. And it kind of goes along with like gratitude rhetoric, you know, gratitude
Yeah.
narratives, but like it's kind of more than that, because it's like really observing, noticing the magic, the synchronicities,
Mm.
the, you know, coincidences. They're not coincidences, it's all
Yeah.
magic. Even the
Yeah.
stuff that sometimes can come in like in a painful, like I'll give you guys a quick example. Like I had a dog come in. Do you guys know I have chickens, right? Like I love my chickens. Okay. I really, really like, they are so cute. I mean, I just love my chickens. I had a dog come in and kill two of my chickens.
Oh.
And as I'm, you know, one of my chickens, I'm like carrying my chicken, and I was like, you know, they're my ravens, and I was feeling all this pain because it was almost like I was attacked like through the chickens,
Yeah.
and I was like in anguish, and I was like cry screaming, you know, down my
Mm.
road, like looking for my other chicken that the dog had taken, and I couldn't find the other chicken. And then, you know, lo and behold, this neighbor across the street comes out and starts talking to me about challenges that he's facing as I'm standing there holding my dead chicken. And then the son of the man who owns the dog comes down trying to find me on his, it's like a road bike, kind of like a motorcycle. And I quickly realize he's deaf. He's trying to talk to me and he's deaf,
Yeah. Right.
right? And he's so upset. And he's like trying to tell me, like, come, like, here's my other chicken, you know, here's your other chicken. And I followed him back and he showed me the chicken and he was trying not to cry.
Mm.
And
Oh.
my heart was just, my heart was just exploding the whole time. And it was maybe another 24 hours before I realized that my heart had actually been kind of closed again because of some other events that had happened. And so spirit came in through my chickens to open my heart and to
Wow.
remember that like this is painful, like to lose something that I love, but like remember who you are, remember your light, remember your darkness as well, remember the power that you bring, you know, and all these others that are suffering and at different levels of consciousness. And yeah, like remember who we are and keep that heart open, you know. So that's like a
Mm.
perfect example of like the magic that happens. It's like painful, but it's still prosperity, it's prosperous because it brings you what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even inside the pain, it brings you exactly what you need.
Yeah. Wow. That's,
Oh, Michelle, wow.
yeah, that's so true. And
My
I,
chickens.
yeah.
I know.
Oh,
But how, like, you blow my mind that you can take just 24 hours before you see the lesson in that loss.
mm,
Because
Right.
that's a huge loss for you. Like that, they're like they're a part of your family, they're a part of
Mm-hmm.
your life. They brought so much joy to
Mm-hmm.
you. I mean, I see your posts on Facebook about your chickens all the time.
Yeah.
So I understood that you had that love for them.
Yeah.
yeah.
And to be able to process all of that in 24 hours and see the lesson and the gift, to me is like mind blowing.
Yeah.
It takes me so much longer to process the feelings of loss or the feelings of grief or the feelings,
Yeah.
because I was saying to you girls when the camera wasn't rolling before we started
Mm-hmm.
that I'm doing embodiment practices,
Mm-hmm.
and the more open I become, and the more embodied I become in my body,
Mm-hmm.
because of past story, I had chosen not to be in my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so coming into my body, I'm feeling a lot more
Mm-hmm.
and I'm experiencing life on a different level.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's freaking hard.
Yeah.
It's freaking hard. And so for me, that pace that you're talking about, being able to process that in that period of time is like mind blowing to me, because it usually takes me such a long time to process anything
Right.
because I haven't been fully in my body.
Right. And when you say you haven't been fully in your body, you mean you haven't been fully feeling. Like you haven't been feeling
I've
how
been
however you
disconnected
feel.
from
Right.
myself.
So it's like learning how to actually stay with the feeling.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I'm gonna just throw this out there. My partner and I have been really diving down into the rabbit hole of attachment theory this
Ah,
time.
it's been a huge theme for me the last
Okay.
few weeks.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. Okay, so you're good, you're on it. But I
Yeah.
just wanted to throw that out there because it's been really useful. Really,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So give us some of your nuggets then from your deep dive into the rabbit hole.
Well, um, it's useful in terms of ourselves and
Mhm.
understanding better how we process emotion, or if we even process emotion, if we avoid it, if we're anxious about it, et cetera, et cetera. Being able to understand ourselves better, being able to access more self compassion, because, of course, all of this was programmed in us when we were in theta brainwave between the ages of 0 and 7, when we were like
Yeah.
highly downloadable, right? Um, so being able to access more self compassion, and yeah, just like understand ourselves better. But also useful for understanding the ones that we love, and how they navigate relationships, connections, and being able to have a framework for dialogue that does not blame, does
Mm.
not point the finger at all, and offers this opportunity, if someone chooses, to take responsibility for their participation. And and there's just no blame. It's just, okay, this is me. I can take responsibility for how I participated, and then you can choose to do the same. And also, the third way that it's helpful is even with those that I'm not necessarily in close connection with, like acquaintances, things like that. Um, Being able to look at certain behaviors through that lens, as opposed to some other narratives that are perhaps more dualistic, more polarizing. You're a narcissist, like, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because it's a whole other lens. And when I started diving in, I was like, this is fascinating how, like, certain styles, like certain pieces of the behaviors were, you know, Narcy scripts of the Narcy
Mm.
system, and all of the insecure styles, carry this. And
Mm.
so then it comes down to, like, wow, like, my goodness, like, nothing new. We know this, but people are the walking wounded. Humans are the walking wounded. And so how can we try to dive deep and offer some more compassion and understanding when we're able to? But don't get me
Mm.
wrong. I mean, I'm all love, but I carry a big sword too. I really do,
Yeah.
because, and I always will offer a space. I will always offer a space, but, like, if something shows me that, like, no, this is not,
Yeah.
going to be beneficial here, then, that's a whole other story. I will walk away also,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
but I
Exactly.
And
always
it's
offer,
important.
yeah,
Yeah. And openness.
yeah,
Yeah. It's important to, because an open heart needs strong boundaries,
right, right,
because if it doesn't have those strong boundaries, then you're putting yourself out in the danger zone without any, you know, without any like responsibility or without any protection, or not that we need
Yeah.
protection, but it's like a
Yeah.
strong no works really well with an open heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the tests that I have the women that I work with take is the Big Five personality test. And there's openness, agreeableness, and conscientiousness on the main part of the scale. And so if someone takes the test and they come back really high in like openness, agreeableness, conscientiousness, we always talk about like that's so beautiful, like that, like don't change that, do not change that, but you must
Mm.
know that not everyone is the same.
Yeah.
And I actually made a YouTube video. I'm trying to get my YouTube channel started, but I made a video like about this whole concept. um because yeah, it's not about like protection, like, but it is about being able to stay in our own game and
Yes.
write our own stories. And it's very easy for those of us that are very open-hearted, very agreeable, very conscientious, without even realizing it, and it's no one's fault, it's not their fault either, but to get pulled into someone else's version of something. And then you're like,
100%.
and
Yes.
then you have to like get back in your own lane again, right? So
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Oh, that's so true. And then you're not playing your game anymore.
Yeah.
And now you're playing in a field that's not familiar to you, and you're like confused. You're going, "How did I end up
How
here?"
did I get here? And usually when
Yeah.
you look back, you can see small little
Yes.
discrepancies, times where you didn't honor an intuition or like a little
Oh,
strides, and you
you're
just,
speaking to me.
yeah, yeah,
Michelle, yes.
yep,
Yes. I
yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about from personal experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I love to say like red flags, the narrative are, it's like, oh, red flags, it's all about everyone else. Well, that's a red flag for me. No, red flags are for me. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. There doesn't mean there's anything bad about you. They're for me. They're for me to say, hey, this might not totally resonate. And so I'm just going to keep an eye on it. I'll just keep an eye on it, and taking our time to see like if we do choose to promote someone in our lives, also like taking our, I say promote, do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
I
Like,
yeah,
get, yes.
yeah.
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
So, Michelle, in saying that, because you're speaking to me, man, when you're talking about this stuff, right? I so
awesome,
get everything you're saying.
awesome.
And now that I'm starting, because I'm on my own journey,
Hmm.
recognizing the red flags were for me,
Right,
right? I'm
right.
I'm there now. I'm in that space, and I'm dealing with loads of shame, loads of
Yeah.
shame
Hmm.
around not seeing it at the time,
Uh-huh. I understand.
and going to my past self and going, "Whoa, why did you not see it?" Like it's that regret, it's the shame, it's the and I'm feeling it all now.
Hmm.
And you know how I was talking about the boogeyman in the corner and being in the shadow, and there's no
Yeah.
shadow anymore, so I see the boogeyman. Like part of it is to do with those red flags. I'm seeing them for what they are. They were
Hmm.
my red flags.
Right.
And kind of now I was in like really bad shame to begin with. When it first opened up to me, I was
Hmm.
massively in shame. I'm starting to come out of that now.
Okay.
And I'm seeing that the lesson was for me,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to see the gifts that were in them, which is why you amaze me so much that you can do it in 24 hours, because
Well,
it's taken months for me.
let me separate some, let me make a little bit of a distinction.
Yes.
I think that when it comes to relationships with humans, where we are putting so much, like I love my chickens,
Yeah.
and I felt awful that something, I mean, it was awful, but do you see how it's like, it's a different thing? Like,
Yeah, but my red flags are more to do with practical choices that have come back to bite me,
okay,
and they've pushed my life into a trajectory,
okay,
and now I'm in that that trajectory that I don't want to be in.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
can see how I've ended up there. And I
Okay.
see the choices that I made that got me here.
Yep. Okay.
And how it's actually sometimes the exact opposite of what I've wanted
Mhm.
in my life.
Mhm.
And so now I'm kind of like, okay, how am I going to choose to course correct?
Right.
And do I even,
That's the beauty of it. Is
yeah,
is it's like you wake up again and you're, oh, I'm the author here. I'm the creator
yes,
here. This is my game. I'm the main character again.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. So now I'm my main character.
Yeah.
I see that I made these choices in complete ignorance.
Mhm. Mhm.
And now I'm going, how am I going to make a choice? Like I'm in that, like, how do I trust myself kind of question?
Right.
How do I know now? Because I did that. I didn't know I was doing it. I
Yeah.
see now how it's affected my life.
Yeah.
How do I make a better choice for myself when I did that? Like, I'm
Mm.
in this
Right.
space of how do I trust myself now?
Mm.
So my feeling on this is that a lot of times you will go through the whole landscape of that, like whatever that
Yes.
landscape was, so that then we can look back and say, oh, I did have a red flag there. I did have a red flag there. Oh,
Yeah.
I did know. I did
Yes.
know. I just abandoned myself. I didn't trust myself, but I did know. And so those experiences themselves help to build self trust because they provide you the landscape to look back and see that you did know.
Yes.
And
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Can I recommend a book? I actually have
Yes,
it right next
please.
to me. Healing the Shame That Binds You by John Bradshaw.
Oh, he's written that for me.
It's really good, man. It's really, really good. I recommend this one. I've read it a couple times. Um, because a lot of the reason I mention this is because a lot of times what gets hooked into in those space, when you're talking about the shame, well, what's shame really? Like, what is that?
Yep.
Right. And so being a book like this will help you really tackle the originations of shame, things like that.
Yeah, right.
Help you distinguish it from um, the times where it's like actually healthy to have a sense of shame if it's like an emotional center to our conscience, right? Because that like keeps us in integrity, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there can be moments where it's an okay thing to have, like, it keeps us in our integrity. But usually it's based in so many lies about ourselves. Like things like, for example, like who told you you had to be perfect?
Yeah.
Mm.
Like who and what is perfect anyway? Like what the heck is that? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
and who said that you had to get it all right the first time? Who said
Mm.
that life isn't a journey? Who said that it's not about learning and expanding? Like, right? Like so much shame is based in these lies. And so
Yes.
a lot of times we'll have these experiences also so that we can unpack the lies that like we're telling ourselves that result in that emotional experience and anger and grief and there's so much there, right?
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so much there
Yeah.
that is being unpacked. It's
Yeah.
being shown to
Yeah.
me. It's
Yes.
all
You're
coming out now.
right. And you're going to be releasing like through this
Yeah.
experience, like the reason it takes so long is because you're not just releasing those feelings that were born inside this situation, you're releasing
Yeah.
other feelings from the past as well that are
Yeah.
like in, you know what I mean? Like the same
Oh,
thing.
yeah. They're packed in there. The
Yeah.
luggage has been there for a long time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
And
Yeah.
it's all the pieces are, the locks are unlocking, the case is
Yeah.
open, and all the pieces are there,
Yeah.
and I'm
Totally.
seeing them.
Totally.
Yeah.
And this is a part of prosperity because it's painful, but like we're
Mm.
given what we need so that we can see and expand and grow and course correct and things like that.
Yeah, I feel prosperity needs lightness.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're carrying all that
Yeah.
baggage around with you,
Yep.
you can't travel quickly, like not quickly enough, but
Right.
lightly enough to receive
Yes.
prosperity in your life.
And
So you got to get rid of it.
when you sit
Release
in
it. Release it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when
Yeah.
you sit in shame over, like, for example, because you've chosen these choices and you look back and you see these weren't actually the right choices for me to take me where I want to
Yeah,
be,
which is
right?
exactly it.
Mhm.
I think that is actually one of the best things to ever realize, because
Really?
then you can just change and
Mm,
go to where you want to go.
mm.
But
Yeah.
if you live in shame and you're like, oh, I can't believe for how many
Right.
years I've been choosing these choices, and like mum does
Right.
that, she just like, oh,
I
I'm
love the
just
voice, Julia.
like, well, because you live in the shame
Ooh.
sometimes, and nothing I can
Yeah.
say gets you out of it. It's like,
Yeah.
at least you know now.
Well, at least you know nothing you can say gets me out of it. At least you know
Yeah, so
that.
I
It's
don't.
okay though, like Claude, it's okay if you're there for like just
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
stay there forever. Don't
Yeah.
if you do I'm
I'm
coming to Australia and I'm throwing you away myself. But
see, look,
you know, like it's okay
yes,
to
that's
be there.
why.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen you be in it for a little bit,
Yeah.
for a
And
while.
I
It's
admit it.
like,
I admit
get
it.
out of there,
Mhm.
man.
But
You're staying there because of the shame.
no, but I had to feel it.
Yeah,
I've
of course.
had
Yes,
to feel it.
Yeah.
exactly.
And I know that's part of the journey because that depth, the depth of what I'm feeling has a point to
Yes.
it.
Mhm.
It's almost like life is a spiral, and this pain is piercing through every single layer,
Yeah, I get it.
like
Mhm.
going so
Yeah.
deep down
Yeah.
into the depths of who I am
Yeah.
that it's like if I don't allow the shame to be felt, if I'm not living in it for now, I know it's not something I'm going to stay because
No,
it's not who I am. I can't
no,
stay there. I just won't.
no, you won't.
But feeling it and experiencing it the way that I have so far
Mhm.
has really gotten down deep.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So that's
And
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. And part of the reason asking you and putting myself out there today is as a stepping stone for
Mhm.
myself to make, to step out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe I'm ready now to start
Yeah.
making better choices and move through it a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
your story about the chicken is so inspiring to me. You
just
know,
just think of the chickens, Claude. Think of the
yes. Every time I go into a shame spiral, I'll think
but,
of your chickens.
but again, it's just like what you're saying, that there's sometimes so many
Mm,
layers that it does take a while.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we can go through several dark nights of the soul as well.
Yes.
And so
Well,
in
this has
my
definitely been mine.
it, I mean, I went through one myself not long ago, another one. It was briefer. It wasn't as deep as the first one I ever went through, but I knew it. I knew the signature of the energy. And
Yes.
and in that space we learned so much. It's
Yeah.
purpose. And then you come out and you like level the F up and you're just like, ah, and you've integrated and embodied so much more of who you be, right? So
Mm.
because
Yeah.
you've cleared the space for it.
Yep.
So
I feel like I'm this, like, because I make jewelry and I work a lot with
yeah.
precious metals. And with precious metals, particularly silver and gold,
Hmm.
when you get the piece and you start shaping it, it's when you get it, you have to pummel it to shape it into shape. You have to like
Okay.
really hammer it and you have to really work it to get it to how you want it to be. And I feel like I'm in that pummeling stage, like,
Yeah.
life just, having its way with me at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be the shape that I need to be when I'm out of it. I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
have
You'll be a
received,
beautiful ring.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I love that analogy.
loads
It's
of
perfect.
diamonds.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sparkly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's beautiful that I can say that now because I wouldn't have been able to say that a few months ago.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to really
Yeah.
see the joy and the beauty in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. You're working your way up. Yeah.
We're at an hour exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm proud.
Wow, Michelle, you've put our worlds to right today.
I love you, ladies. I love chatting with you.
yeah.
Yes, we love you too.
It's always, I mean, I said it when we started, always
Yeah.
coming out with just so much more wisdom, so much more little golden nuggets of
Beautifulness.
spiritual knowledge.
Mm. Which actually, I would like to put it out here now. I'm writing an ebook that extracts all the nuggets of gold in all the conversations that we've had on
Wow.
Witch Bitch with everyone.
Nice.
So I've just started it. So I'm going to be going through all our conversations together and picking out all the best bits and putting them all together in an ebook for our
What a
community.
absolutely beautiful project.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
That
That's
might
great.
take a little bit to get through everything because we've got
Yeah.
hours of
Yeah.
footage now. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that is a
Oh,
passion project for
over
me.
40 hours.
Yeah.
40, over 40 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
So
Brilliant.
look out for that.
I
When it's done, I'll
will.
post it up.
I can't wait. I can't
Yeah.
wait. Don't forget to celebrate your successes, both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juliet can take me out.
Yeah, I'm going to take us out for lunch. I got paid yesterday.
Woohoo!
So,
Ooh, all right.
yeah.
Oh, Michelle, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, we'll be waiting with bated breath until the next time we can talk to you.
Yeah.
All right. Big love, ladies.
Mwah. Thank you, everyone.